I'll make you a bet. Give me 0 clients, 0 referrals, 0 reputation, just a laptop and my insurance license, and I'll outproduce 99% of active agents within 90 days. And that's not because I'm special, it's not because I have better leads, but because I wouldn't do a single thing that they taught you in training. And if you're tired of chasing leads that don't close, if you're tired of sitting in appointments that go nowhere, and you're tired of watching other agents write business while you work twice as hard, this is going to make you uncomfortable. In this video, I'm breaking down the exact 10 steps I'd follow to rebuild a 7-figure insurance career from scratch in 2026. There's no fluff, no outdated tactics, just what actually works. Let's go. Step 1, I'd ignore 99% of the insurance gurus. The first thing I want to do is decide who not to pay attention to. Right now, you can go online on Facebook and groups and see everything. Cold call your way to 20K a month. No, cold calling is dead. Door knock 100 houses a day. Final expenses dying. Medicare is saturated. Life insurance sales doesn't work anymore. And if you listen to all of them, the only thing that's actually dying is your ability to make a decision. And if I try to build from that noise, I'm cooked before I even start. So I'd give myself a rule for the first few days, maybe a week at most. I'm only looking at agents who've actually built a life I want to live myself, not just production screenshots without context, not rented office spaces, and definitely not photoshopped commission statements. I'm talking real producers who still enjoy their lives. Don't cheat on their wives. I'm not watching them to copy their script. I'm watching to answer a question. Who are they really helping? Because that leads to step number 2. You can't solve a problem that you don't understand. And you can't understand a problem by staring at product brochures. So step 2, you pick a person, not a product. Quick context so you know where this is coming from. I wasn't born into insurance or greatness. I didn't have a big warm market. I earned 6 figures in my first 9 months as a brand new agent, took over 4,200 sales calls, delivered 250 webinar one-to-many presentations, and I've spent thousands of hours studying one thing: what actually makes people buy when there's no trust, no brand, no momentum, and you're new. And the reason I'm telling you that now is because the playbook I'm about to give you is built for starting from zero. If I didn't have these books, if I didn't have an authority, this is what I would do. I'm not coasting on a book of business. So if I'm starting over, I'm not asking what product should I sell. Term, whole life, annuities, final expense, Medicare supplements. I'm asking, who should I serve? I will always start with the who, because if I get the who right, I can always readjust the what later. I'd probably choose one of these 3 groups based on 3 criteria: pain, proximity, and purchasing power. 1, pain. Are they actually suffering from a problem that I can solve? I'm uniquely qualified. 2nd is proximity. Can I reach them without $1 million ad budget? And 3 is purchasing power. Can they afford to fix the problem when I show them how, or are they broke? I'd probably choose one of these couple groups. Business owners between 35 and 55 who make good money but have 0 succession plan, or young families who just bought their first home and are terrified of what happens when something goes wrong. That's what life is, something going wrong. Or pre-retirees who've saved well but are now confused how to turn their nest egg into guaranteed income without losing to fees, or greedy broker, or contractors or self-employed people who've been told they can get affordable coverage. Now, you might pick something completely different. Maybe you'd pick nurses, teachers, first responders, or immigrant families. It doesn't really matter. What matters is this: you pick a group of people whose problems you can feel in the core of your bones. Because from there, I would do something that most agents skip. I would do step 3. Step 3, shut up and listen. By the way, if this roadmap is useful for you so far, do yourself a favor, tap that subscribe or follow button. It helps me know that these deep dive strategies are useful to you. So step 3, shut up and listen. 20 uncomfortable conversations, that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to do market research or study demographics. I want to get uncomfortable and talk to real people about real problems. So I fire off text messages, emails going along these lines. Hey, listen, I'm looking to understand what's keeping you up at night when it comes to protecting your family and your financial future. I'm not here to pitch you anything. I just want to hear what's going on with you right now. If you're not against a 20-minute conversation, I'll help you think through it as best as I can. And most people are going to ignore this message. That's fine. That's totally fine. The scene at 3:47 p.m. with no response or red is just training for objection responses later. A few are going to say yes. We don't need hundreds. We just need 20 people. And in those conversations, I'm not pitching. I'm taking notes like my life depends on it. Here's what I'm listening for: where they feel vulnerable, where the cracks at the seam show, what agents have already told them that made them feel stupid, what they're embarrassed to admit they don't understand. The moment in the story where their voice cracks or they get quiet, those are the gold veins, because my first offer is going to come from their real life, not some product training manual a dumbass upline gave me. This part is where most agents say they're too busy, which is a fascinating way to describe doom scrolling Facebook while being broke. And then I would move on to step 4. Quick pause. Before we move on, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, Mason, but what do I actually say in those first conversations? I'll put together a one-page breakdown that shows you exactly how I open those calls, because I've done this time and time again, what questions I ask, and how I keep them from turning into awkward sales pitches. It's linked below. Grab it now, then come back. Because step 4 only works if step 3 is done right. The market doesn't care about your inventory. It cares about its insomnia. Okay, my friend? Step 4, you create one painfully simple offer, because now I have their data. I've heard their stories. Their patterns start showing up. So I'd sit down and I'd ask, what is the most painful problem I heard that I can actually help them solve with the products that I have access to? Not all their problems, not their entire financial situation, just one problem. And instead of thinking, what's my entire portfolio going to look like? I'd ask, what is the shortest, surest path between where they are and sleeping better at night? And the answer to that becomes my first offer. Maybe it's get your family fully protected with a plan you actually understand in the next 30 minutes or the next 30 days. Or maybe it's turn your retirement savings into guaranteed monthly income that you can count on. Or maybe you can take these ideas. Get approved for life insurance even if you've been declined before. What does that say about someone who's been declined? They're interested in it. You have to be specific here. I'd package it up something super, super clear like the following. We will work together over the next 30 days and we will focus on just this one outcome. Here's how we'll do it step by step. I'll tell you what I expect from you and here's what you can expect from me. And I'm not talking about fancy presentations or glossy brochures at this point that just get tossed in the trash. Just a crystal clear promise that I believe enough to put my reputation on the line for, even if our reputation is brand new or just starting off. One person, one problem, one promise. And once you have that, move on to step 5. Sell it before you build it. So if I'm really starting over, I don't have time to spend 6 months building the perfect PowerPoint presentation, ironing out all my scripts. So I do something that feels scary, but it will save your life. It's this. You sell the outcome before you perfect the process, not in some weird bait and switch way. McGruff will, no. It's, we're going to figure this out together sort of way. We're going to build it on the way down together sort of way. So I go back to the people I talked to and say, based on everything you told me, here's what I think would genuinely help you and solve your problem. Here's the result that I want us to get together. And here's how we can work together. Here's the investment amount. And if they say no, I'm not going to panic. I probe, I pivot, and I pitch again. Probe, what specifically didn't land? What are they objecting to? Pivot. We either adjust the offer or the framing and pitch again to either someone new or the same person, but in a different manner. If someone says no, awesome. That's just feedback. And I'm early enough that changing the offer won't hurt me because I didn't go out of my way to build all this crazy stuff or tweak logos. And if a few people say yes, well, it's game on. Now I've got a little bit of premium coming in. I have committed clients and a real deadline to deliver something that works, finally. And that pressure makes me sharper than any study session ever could. And now I'm ready for step 6. Technology is a multiplier. It multiplies, it exposes and magnifies what you already are. Sharp becomes sharper. Lazy becomes obsolete. So step 6, you lean on AI like a cheap assistant, not like a licensed agent. Let's talk about AI. If I'm starting over in 2026 and I ignore AI, that's irresponsible. But if I think AI can replace relationship building and insurance, that's also irresponsible. AI and ChatGPT can write a decent email. It still can't look your client in the eye when their spouse said, hey, my husband just died, and say, like, I'm here. AI can't do that. What do you need right now? If AI could do that, we'd all be in trouble. So here's how I would use it as a fast assistant, not as a replacement for human connection. I would not ask if it can write my entire sales script for me. I would ask it, give me 50 different ways to explain term versus whole life to someone who's never bought insurance before. I would say, pull out the main objections that someone in this context or situation might have to this specific proposition. Or I would say, help me turn this policy summary into layman's terms or plain English that my client's grandmother's 3-year-old could understand. Then I'd run those outputs through my own judgment, my own compliance requirements. Okay? So AI can give you a starting point, but you're the only one who can build trust face to face, and that's your job. So if you combine your lived experience and relationship skills with AI speed, you get something dangerous in all the best ways. Now, if you try to let AI do your job for you, you end up sounding like every other agent reading from a script. And if I'm starting over, that's the last thing I can afford, to sound like everybody else. So step 7, you document the journey instead of pretending you're already a top producer. Because at this point, I have people I'm serving. I have real conversations happening daily. I have a simple offer, a few initial clients, and AI is just helping me sharpen this whole thing. And most agents would go quiet right here. They disappear and only show up on social media when they have a big win to announce or they're desperate for commissions. I would do the opposite. If I was starting from zero, my unfair advantage is honesty. I'd be open with where I'm at. I document 3 things consistently: my fumbles, my fixes, and my findings. Fumbles. Here's what completely failed, like it fell on its face this week and it's embarrassing, okay? Fixes. Here's how I adjusted things on the fly for my clients. Findings. Here's what worked better than I had expected or anticipated for. Nobody trusts the agent who shows up with the perfect case study every single time. I've served over 4,000 insurance customers, only 6 of them hate me. So people trust the agent who's clearly in the trenches with them, just a few steps ahead, talking about it in real time. And that builds something more valuable than a big social media following. It builds trust. Trust that you're real. Trust that you understand their life. Trust that when you talk about protecting families, you're not reading it out of the manual, you actually care. And that's when you can move on to step 8. Marketing gets them to call you back. Results make them defend you at dinner parties that you're not even around at. So step 8 is you obsess over one thing: results. And at this point, I've got some clients, still small, still building, not top of the leaderboard level yet. So where does my energy go? It doesn't go into recruiting or building a downline. It goes into making sure that people I work with are winning. If they're confused about their policy, I'll get on extra calls. If the application process feels clunky, I'm going to simplify it for them. If I need to adjust my approach, I would tell them openly and course correct. Because if I'm starting off, my first real asset isn't production numbers, it's results and stories. Policy illustrations are nice and cute. Commission statements are nice, they're awesome. But when someone can look into a camera and say, I had no idea what I was doing with my money, I worked with VanMeter and now my family is protected and I got my first good night of sleep in years. That's leverage that I can use for years. And I'd rather have 5 of those testimonials than 50,000 random social media followers who don't even know what I do, who I help, or what I sell. So this is game on. Step 8, where you document, capture, and leverage every client success that you possibly can. And that's when you move on to step 9. Step 9, only scale what feels repeatable. What am I, 12 years old making a mistake? We're just going to keep it in. Once the first version of my approach is working and I've seen people getting real protection and peace of mind, I now start asking, how do I do more of this without burning myself out? Notice how I didn't ask, how do I get into every product that's available to me? Because if I'm rebuilding from zero, complexity is my enemy. Complexity is only a luxury if you have a huge team and massive E&O coverage. I've seen agents try to sell life, health, P&C, Medicare, annuities, and crypto all at once. They didn't build a business, they built a customer service nightmare with a license. So I look at what already worked and I ask, can I turn my one-on-one process into educational workshops without losing the personal touch? Can I create simple videos explaining common questions so I have live time for the complex situations? Can I bring in an admin part-time to help with the paperwork and follow-up? I'd scale breadth last, I'd scale depth first. Go deeper with one niche, with one type of client, with one core offering until it feels boring. Because boring and effective feeds your family. Exciting and scattered feeds your anxiety. And once you have boring and effective, now you move on to step 10. Step 10, you run everything through one question. And the question goes a little something like this, in case you're wondering. Does this actually move me closer to a life I want to live every day? Or am I just chasing production numbers that look good at a company meeting? And that question saves you from a lot of pain. It stops you from overcommitting to clients you can't serve well. It stops you from building an insurance practice that you secretly resent and you wish you woke up and it was gone. It stops you from optimizing for accolades instead of impact. Because here's the part nobody puts in your recruiting presentation. You can win at the wrong game. You can wake up one day with the production that you said you wanted, the awards you thought mattered, the recognition that you used to crave, and realize you built a prison with really nice commission checks. So if I'm starting from zero, I don't get a second shot at building this right. So every client, every commitment, every growth decision runs through that filter. Does this move me towards a life I can actually live with and be proud of? If yes, I lean in. If no, even if it's shiny, I let it go. So that's how I'd rebuild from nothing as an insurance agent in 2026, not by chasing the newest lead system, and definitely not by trying to look like a top producer on day one, but by picking real people to serve, listening hard, making a clear promise, and helping them before perfecting anything, using AI as a tool, not as a crutch, documenting the messy middle and obsessing over client results, scaling what already works and checking all of it against the life I actually want. So if you're already at zero, you don't need to be ashamed of that. You're just where most agents secretly are, but won't admit it. The difference now is that you, my dear friend, have a way to move forward without lying to yourself. And if this hits you in the right type of way, rewatch it with a notebook and actually map this out for your current situation. And if you want the exact scripts and structure I use to start conversations from zero, that's linked down below. So watch this again with it open and actually map it out. And if this step-by-step roadmap actually helps you clarify your next move, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one.